Hey, it's Nancy A. Shenker, also known as the Geezerproofer, here to give you some tips on how to be a badass after 50. And if you're a beezer, it means that you be in the moment, be relevant, be active. And if you're a geezer, it just means that you're stuck. And you could be a geezer or a beezer at any age. So with that out of the way, today's topic is Hot Woman Summer. And I am here solo. I don't have a guest. Those of you who know me also know that I really can't stand shooting selfie videos, talking about myself. But the sad reality is that we're living in a very narcissistic me world. And I found that when I talk about myself and I tell personal stories, my engagement skyrockets. So as an example of that, I picked up my new glasses yesterday at Warby Parker. I posted a short story on my Instagram, and as of this morning, I had 200 views. So I could post a really intelligent article about marketing trends or business and crickets. But when I post a new hairdo, a fashion thing, my food, all of a sudden people care. So as a good marketer, I'm using the data. And so today it's going to be all about me. But since it can never be all about me, I'm going to wrap up with 7 tips that you might find useful. So here goes. And now that you've seen my 200 view glasses, I will take them off. What I'm going to talk about, as I said, is Hot Woman Summer. You know, we all know Hot Girl Summer, which is the year when women are independent and partying and owning their stuff. Well, I'm way past the girl phase. I'm close to 70, but that doesn't mean that I can't have a hot woman summer. And what that means to me, especially as I get older, is it's really not about the season. It's about the vibe. And that becomes even more important as we get older because none of us really know, even when we're young, how many years we have left on this earth. So not to be a downer, the reality is we should live every day and every season as if it's potentially the last one on earth. So it's about the vibe, not about the season. The other thing that happens in the summer is work tends to slow down a little bit. Living here in Arizona, all the snowbirds are gone. It's a whole different pace of life. And the weather is nicer, although here it's nice pretty much all year round. But when I go back to the East Coast, you could really feel that summer is in full throttle. Kids are out of school, people are going on vacation. And so it's all about doing those little things that really bring you joy that you may not give yourself the right to do the rest of the year. I have a blog coming out this week. It's on badgirlgoodbizblog.com, and it's called School's Out. And it's talking about how we as adults of any age can kind of recreate that feeling of the last day of school when all of a sudden everything seems to change around us. And we should wake up every morning with that last day of school vibe and just be happy to be on this earth, even the little things that come our way. So I've realized that this is the first summer of my life, which is kind of hard to believe since I am almost 70, when I don't have a lot of pressure or obligations. My kids are grown. My parents, sadly, are both gone. I don't have any place that I need to be or have to be. So I'm actually getting on a plane. I have a one-way ticket on Friday. Which I'll probably be back by the time you're hearing this, or maybe not, because I don't know when I'm coming back. And I never did that gap year after I graduated college. So I'm kind of looking at this as my time to explore and go wherever the wind takes me or go wherever people invite me to go. And we don't always have the luxury of doing that in our lives. We may have financial pressures, we may have family pressures, but the epiphany for me was that this is really the first time where I'm not taking care of an aging parent, an event that I'm responsible for, other kinds of obligations. And I've started asking myself, why the hell not? This is really my time. So the 3 things you should be thinking about as you plan your own hot woman, hot man summer is what are some experiences you can have this summer that maybe you've been wanting to have for a while? What are some of the treats that you could give yourself? Because self-care is really, really critical in longevity. And what are places that you may want to explore? For example, my social media manager here at Pod Populi, Kelly, asked me if I wanted to come to Iowa to meet with her. Now, Iowa is not on my short list of places that I've always wanted to go, but it would be fun to hang with her for a couple of days. The airfares are reasonable. So I just said to myself, why the hell not? So you may find me podcasting from Iowa at some point during Hot Woman Summer. So here are my 7 tips to have the best summer ever. Number 1 is think about your summer in terms of how you did when you were a little kid. I talked about viewing every day as the last day of school, but more than that, think about when you returned to school in September, you usually had to write an essay, or now maybe they have you do a video or some kind of compilation reel on what I did on my summer vacation. So project yourself into September, and if you were writing that article today or putting up that video, what would you want to be reflecting on in terms of the new and cool experiences that you had this summer? Second, try to take the pressure off yourself. Again, I'm a realist. Sometimes you have family obligations, you get invited to places, you have to do things that you don't want to do. The weather may suck, but show yourself some grace. Breathe, don't stress, don't count down the days until Labor Day. Just savor every moment, sunny or rainy. Number 3 is try something new. And that could be something outrageous like zip lining. That's not that outrageous. I'd probably put skydiving above that. But just try something that kind of gives you a little bit of fear. Because as we get older, we sometimes stick with doing things that we've always done. But if you're not doing something that scares you at least a little bit, then you're not doing it right. For example, I have got to get better at video editing, shooting shorts and reels. And it's something I procrastinate about because digital is not my first language, but I'm really pushing myself to do it because I know how much better I'll feel once I've mastered it. And think of all those other things that you've done in your life, everything from learning how to diaper a baby, even before that, riding a bike, starting kindergarten for the first time. You're capable of doing things that you've never done before, and you don't lose that power throughout your life. You can also revisit, I don't recommend dwelling in the past, but I do call it rearview mirror therapy, and look at some of those old places that you used to enjoy as a kid and go back and just reflect on how they may have changed or who you were back when you were in that place. I recently did an episode with Marty McNabb where I talked about my selling hand-loomed potholders door to door. And although what I do now is much more lucrative than that, the fact that I was an entrepreneur at the age of 8 gave me a certain amount of joy. So look at those things that you used to do that gave you pleasure, try them again. If you don't like it, just move on. Number 4, which actually relates to what I was just talking about and my planned trip to Iowa. Say yes to invitations. You could come up with 1,000,001 reasons why you shouldn't do something, but really question that and say, why am I saying no? Or why am I saying maybe? Sometimes there are real answers to that, but sometimes it's just that little voice in your head. Speaking of which, I will be doing something that scares the shit out of me, which I've done before, which is doing a stand-up comedy gig. I have a new piece called Shit That Terrifies Me, and I will be workshopping it later this summer. So stay tuned on that. Number 5, spend time with family, friends, and even strangers that you might vibe with. One of the things that I've realized as I've gotten older is that time with family is really, really precious. Sometimes you don't get a do-over. So even though it may sometimes be stressful to be hanging out at that family barbecue or visiting an aging parent, do it while you can, because you may not be able to do it forever. But let's keep things upbeat again. And this may be a shocker to you, but I am advocating ignoring social media for at least part of the summer. Because what can happen is you could look at other people's feeds and say, damn, why does that person and her boyfriend look so happy in the Bahamas or hiking or visiting Europe? But just remind yourself that what is on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, it's fiction. It's not real life. It's a sanitized, colorized version of reality. So never, ever, never get a case of FOMO, fear of missing out, because of what you're seeing on the apps. And then there's also just like a lot of bad, scary, toxic news on there, trolls. Like, again, keep your head in the sunshine. After all, it's summer. And last but not least, which is really, really important, is you do you. And it's very, very difficult as we get older to sometimes wrap our heads around who is that new you. Well, my philosophy is the new you is really not that different from the old you. You may be wiser. You may have a few more battle scars, as my friend Tanya calls them, some wrinkles, some flappy skin in your arms. But at the end of the day, what's inside here? What's inside your heart? What's inside your soul? It gets older. It gets wiser. It gets more developed. But it's still there. So whatever it is that's going to bring you joy, you should be doing that to really enjoy your own version of the hot woman summer, the hot man summer, a summer of freedom, a summer of joy, a summer of exploration, a summer of taking risks, a summer of being a little bit naughty. So to that end, I am going to be producing a list of 100 fun things you can do this summer. And they're going to range from some really mild, fun, simple things like treating yourself to that ice cream cone at the Dairy Queen that you remember from childhood, all the way up to some pretty naughty and provocative stuff. So if you shock easily, you could just cover your eyes when you get to the bottom of the list. But if you'd like to be among the first people to get that list, you can email me at thegeezerproofer@gmail.com. And that's also the email address that you would use if you'd like to appear as a guest on my show. I'm going to be traveling around. I'm recording by Zoom. So even if you're not in Scottsdale or New York, you could potentially be a guest. So don't hesitate. Get over your fear. If you like what you hear on Apple, Spotify, or wherever else you're listening to my podcast, just raise your hand and ask to be a guest for a future episode. And that's about all I've got to say. I'm going to go back to celebrating my own hot woman summer. And I'm treating myself to a massage after I finish the recording, which is going to be one of the things on the list of things you could do that are simple, not too expensive, and leave you feeling way better after it's done. So have a wonderful summer, whatever you end up doing. Remember, email me at thegeezerproofer@gmail.com and just put summer in the subject line and I'll send you the list. And have a wonderful, wonderful summer and the rest of your year, wherever you may be and whatever you're doing. And remember to be a beezer and not a geezer. Peace out.